Here we go. All right.
Mr. Giovanni,
Hello, hello, hello. Edwin, how you doing?
really good at yourself?
Excited for this topic. I know it's a hot one, especially with all the buzz going on within the market. So happy to be able to dive in today.
Yes, time to provide a lot of information. And not only information, we have graph and statistics so people know exactly what is happening. And based on that information, they can make a better decision if buying a home now is a good decision or waiting a little bit longer might be a better decision. But now they're
Right.
going to have that information in front of them.
Like we pride ourselves here with our team at the Millennial Realtors is we're really education centered, right? We want to provide the value, lay out all the facts more than anything. That way, the consumer out there, they're prepared and they're empowered to make better decisions for them and their families in regards to the real estate game. So it's gonna be a good one. I'm excited for what we're gonna
True.
touch.
By the way, if Luz is watching right now, thank you so much for the mug from
Yeah.
last year. I still haven't got the 2025 edition, so hopefully I get it soon. And I know they came out with a new design, so hopefully I get it.
As always.
So just want to say really fast to the people who join us, at least on the Instagram. I know that Alex Guillen, he's joined. Let's see, Bustillo, Anita join as well, and Alex as well. So there's three people right now, at least on the Instagram. I know there's more people through Facebook and also YouTube. So let's dive in exactly information. So one of the biggest questions, Giovanni, I got in the last 2 months
Yeah.
is like not a question, more like a comment. People are thinking,
Mhm.
hey, I don't think right now is a good time to buy. And when I ask them what is the reason they have that mentality, they say, I think prices will go down. And now is the time. We've been waiting for so long for prices to go down. This is the year where prices will go down.
Yeah.
And a lot of things is because of the whole new media news that has been happening recently. We've been hearing the word recession.
Quite
A lot
often.
on the news. Okay, we also been hearing a lot of the tariff situation, like the
Mhm.
taxes that will cause the economy to crash. What is your opinion on that?
Well, it's a lot of hoopla, right? It's like we've learned within the media outlets. There's a lot of headlines, right? And these headlines are to capture our attentions. They're more so put in place to terrify the consumer. And what we like to do is clarify, talk on the facts, not so much just throw things out there that's going to gather attention, but more so talk on what's actually happening within the market. Um, we've been hearing, Edwin, and you can back this, like prices are going to go down every year for the past, what, 5 6 years, and all we've seen is the opposite happen, because the thing that we're still encountering is that there's a lot more demand than there is inventory, especially when it comes to our region here in California.
Yeah. Well, it's other states like we have colleagues from like from North California, Texas, Florida. I know, like for example, Florida is going through a correction. Like a
Mhm.
lot of people were buying a lot of secondary home, vacation home for Airbnb, and that made the last few years prices to go up. But now they've been seeing a small correction on those specific states or some
Right.
cities, because I know if you go buy a home in Miami, it's a hot spot, probably the prices are not going down.
Very different. Just depends on the city, right? You could even differentiate by different zip codes. It all matters in regards to, like, let's say where you're looking, the type of area, and like how everything around it is being affected.
That is correct. So let me, before I provide a slideshow that we prepare for them for the community tonight.
Yes.
So the way we analyze numbers is what has happened last year, what is going to happen, what is happening this year. So last year exactly, we don't have the numbers for May of 2025 yet because we're in May,
Mhm.
but we have April numbers from this year and April numbers from last year as well.
Right.
So closed transactions. One second. Again with this.
Yeah. You gotta love the zoom in.
No, I need to play with that setting. It always happens to me. Okay, so closed transactions on 2024 April, it was a total, and that's for LA County. Well,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, for the whole state of California. It was 26,000
Right.
closed transaction. Now this year is 26,947. Last year in April was 26,173. So technically, it has been a small increase of the number of transactions that happen. So technically, if you ask me, hey, if we go into recession, this means it's less homes for sale, or less people buying houses, and it is completely the opposite. Numbers are stable. Okay, so let me open the slide really fast.
One thing we're seeing is that, like, let's say from what the news and media is throwing out there to what is actually happening, like this graph that we're going to go ahead and go over, it's night and day from what's actually occurring within the market, and the facts always prove it.
Yes. Okay. So numbers. So if you ask me if I think prices will go down, my professional opinion, my answer, at least here in Southern California, will be a big no-no. Okay. And according to this graph, I believe, let me see if I'm able to move it around. 1 second. Oh, that's opposite. Okay. So according to this, the forecast of home prices to increase. So they saying that at least this specific year, 2025, prices will go up 3.4%.
Right.
Okay. 2026 is going to be 3.3. 2027, 3.7. In 2029, 3.9. So technically, prices are not going to go down. It's going on the different direction. It's going up. Now, something that I did notice compared to 2021, compared to 2022, when we were looking at some cities, Giovanni, that they had like a 10, 15% increase in prices.
Right.
To me, that was not a healthy increase on home prices. Now it's going up 3%. Usually the normal increase on home prices to be a healthy market is 3 to 5%.
Right.
So now we're seeing more of that. And that's, to me, that's something that's good news. So that's mean the market is being more and more stable as we speak.
Correct. And the common denominator is that like I was mentioning earlier, that the inventory is still low. So it's not necessarily propping up prices, if that makes sense. Like, let's say, despite the fluctuating interest rates, we haven't seen a massive surge in housing inventory, right? It's like homeowners are still locked in for the most part, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, on their low interest rates from when they purchased in the pandemic years, which is making them a little reluctant to sell. So it's like that paired with this graph, it's like we're seeing why people are sitting still.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So technically, according to Fannie Mae, and this is, again, we don't see those prices a lot in California unless you buy like in Victorville, Hesperia, even Lancaster. You might be able to see houses in the 400,000. But according to national numbers, they're predicting if you buy a home today, in the next 5 years, your home equity is going to go up by 79,304.
And that's a national average, right?
Yes. Here in California, we, home prices are a little bit higher. The demand is a little bit higher. So you might be a little bit more increase on the home prices and also the equity in a lot of homeowners in this location.
We tend to see accelerated growth especially within equity out here in SoCal, just because of the higher prices and the different price points compared to the nationwide average.
Yes. And right now we have an appointment for someone who's looking to sell the house. And they bought it back in 2005. And how much they bought it for?
They bought it at $700,000 in 2005, and now they're considering selling their home. And it's eventually, when they do sell it, it's going to be somewhere north of 1.5 million. So not only doubling what they originally purchased it for, but that and some.
Yeah, and they've been making payments too, so they're also going to be getting that money back.
Correct.
Versus, like Giovanni, when you rent, you don't get anything back. You can be renting for 10 years, paid almost half of the house that you're renting, but you're not gonna get a single dime back. So this client is a past client of us. We help him sell one of the houses already in the past, and the beauty of it is like he's getting ready to retire in Mexico.
Yeah,
but not Mexico, in Paradise, Mexico, Cancun.
Living the life.
Yes. So imagine how beautiful it is just to say, hey, I purchased a home. I'm just paying a roof over my head, but now I'm getting ready to retire, and I'm gonna technically he's gonna go as a millionaire to
Yeah.
Mexico with
Yeah.
that chunk of money. But of course, he's looking to making investments over there, but he's looking to retire over there.
Correct. And
You
it's
know,
a short-term sacrifice that was made a while ago is going to pay dividends now in the future because of decisions that were made in the past. And that's kind of at a similar point with where we're at now. People that take action now make a decision to invest, whether it's in their single family home or if they want to go and get units to be able to fluctuate on their portfolio. Years down the line is when they'll be able to tap into that and really see the fruits of their labor come through fruition.
yes, and there it is. You know, right now we have one of our listings, active. It's a beautiful home, by the way. So if you're looking to buy in Eastvale,
Mm-hmm.
it's an amazing house. We're gonna be hosting an open house on Saturday on this home. So make sure you check our social media so you can get the information. But yeah, our client bought it for X amount of price.
Mm-hmm.
In less than 2 years, our client decided, hey, you know what? I want to sell it. I want to move to another city. And if everything goes well, she's gonna be walking with more than 100,000 equity.
Yeah.
You know, and not just by owning a house.
Mm-hmm.
And renting, you can have the most beautiful rental. And I always say that when you rent, you are paying mortgage, you're paying a property, but it's something that doesn't belong to you.
Correct. And won't reward you eventually when you make your next move.
Yes. Okay. So, what is the reason? So this got my attention a lot.
Right.
So this graph is specifically since 2020 all the way to 2025, showing the percentage of people who buy in the house,
Mm-hmm.
how much are first-time home buyers, and we had seen an increase in 2025 so far.
Yeah.
So last year it was 11%, the year before it was 10%, 2022 11, 2021 11%, and 2020 9%. So we're looking that more people are going and buying the first home.
Yeah, and
And
we've
what do you
seen
think
it, right? We've seen it. There's more people reaching out, inquiring just about information. There's more people inquiring about getting themselves pre-approved. There's more people that just want to know where they stand, because where in the years past there was hesitancy of, oh, what's going to happen with the market? Our price is going to go up. Our interest rate's going to come down. Now they're realizing that this is pretty much the normal market that it's going to be. Maybe it fluctuate a little bit up and down, but this is generally what the market's going to look like. So we're seeing people move away from these conversations that limit them and start taking action towards, okay, well, maybe it is a possibility for me to buy. And, this proves it.
Okay. And the conversations, you mentioned a keyword. So what are the conversations we were hearing? Like 2020, hey, I was scared. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like what is going to happen with the economy? Not as scared about COVID, to me, it's like, it's just a cold, and that's just my opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of people suffer from that, but more than anything, I was scared about the economy. What is going to happen with the economy? How we're going to put food in our table, And a lot of people, a lot of home buyers that were scared too, I don't want to buy a house if I'm not going to be able to make it. I know, like the conversation with a lot of first-time home buyers where they're not jumping into buying a house in 2021, 2022. It was because of the overbidding situation.
Yeah.
Literally, like we sold a property in Moreno Valley. I still remember that specific home. We got over 100 offers on that home.
It was a frenzy.
Yes. We thought we were only going to be selling it for at least, I don't know, like 20,000 above asking. And we sold it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 80 to 90,000 above asking price.
Yeah.
So a lot of people discouraged because of that.
Right. It was an unprecedented time. And back then, because it was extremely limited with the inventory and the rates were so low, it just created this frenzy where it's like people were in a situation that they did have to overbid if they wanted to purchase a property. Now, not so much the case, because it's more so normalized where it's not so much heavily leaned on the seller side. It's not so much heavily leaned on the buyer side, but it's more so in the middle where there has to be some leeway on both sides in order to have a successful transaction.
Yes. And right now, prices, just to let people know, houses are selling more close to the asking price. So if you see a home for 700,000, they're selling close to that price. So you're not overbidding for the house. Of course, there's sometimes you're gonna see some strategies from the seller and the agent as well, where they list the home really low in order to get an amazing traction on the house. But in most cases, they selling close to the asking price.
Right.
Okay. And of course, 2023, 2024, that's when we saw the increase on the rates. The beautiful 3%, they were already gone by then. We were looking to the 5-6%. So right now we're looking somewhere around the 7% in most cases on the rates. So, and then a lot of people are like, high prices, high rates. I don't want to buy a house.
Right.
But something like you mentioned in the beginning of this slide is like 2025. People think this is the new normal, and they already know that. They know that has been 2 years already on the 6% rates. Prices are not going down. They cannot put the life on stop. They cannot be just waiting and waiting and waiting and just betting on the market for something to happen for them to buy a house. So that's why you see an increase of almost 50% more people, 40% more people as a first-time home buyer going into the market and buying a house.
That's it.
Yeah.
So now, like, let's say if you're on the other side of this video and you're considering, well, like maybe it's the right time for me. The biggest recommendation that we always have is at least get yourself informed on what your options look like. Get yourself pre-approved. Speak with a professional like us that can contact you with the lender. That way, okay, well, like, let's say if I were to buy, what type of programs can I take advantage of? What type of down payment am I looking at? Can I take advantage of things like down payment assistance? And ultimately, what's my mortgage going to look like? In some cases, we've seen, Edwin, that it's like it doesn't differentiate much from a rent because people are paying astronomical prices for rents right now. And you might as well go purchase something that's your own, that's going to be able to reward you in the future versus not.
Okay. LA, how much is the rent right now? You can think for a 2 bedrooms, 2-bath apartment.
And you're paying close to $3,000, if not more. Closer to LA, closer to a nicer neighborhood, that could even be a lot higher.
Okay, if you're renting $3,200 a month, that's $38,400 annually.
Correct.
If you, let's say in that specific apartment for 3 years, that's $115,000, 115. And that's 3 years. I don't want to do the math for 5-6 years because that's going to hurt for a lot of people. And that's money doesn't go back to you. Correct. Now, I heard that one time, and it's so true. When is the best time to buy? And what I heard is the best time to buy is when you feel ready. A lot of people think they're gonna try to time the market, but in most cases, the market always wins.
Right.
Something goes unexpected. So what I mean by that is, like, if you're ready, if you can pay a rent, then yes, you can pay a mortgage. If you're working and have a good income, stable income, yes, you can purchase a house. If you have or don't have the down payment, there's programs for you to buy a house.
Correct.
When you feel ready, buy the house. It might not be the dream home, but buy the house, and eventually 3 years, 5 years from now, then you can upgrade to the dream home. Don't think that every house that people buy is like the same as selling Sunset. That's the truth.
Right.
What you can right now, and eventually just buy the dream home that you're looking for.
Correct. It's like there's this misconception. It's like, oh, I'm gonna wait for the prices to go down, or I'm gonna wait to interest rates to come down, and people are just waiting to time the market, waiting to buy. When what we like to say is, don't wait to buy. If you're in a position where you can buy, and then wait, because in the real estate, you're always playing the long game, and in the long game, you're always going to be able to cash in on your efforts.
Yes, that is correct. So the next slide. So technically, okay, another thing why prices are not going down is because of the lack of inventory. Okay, lack of inventory comes from 2 things: new construction and resale houses.
Right.
Okay, but right now, if you see on this graph right here in the middle, on the orange, on the beginning of the orange, because of the whole pandemic, a lot of builders were not building enough houses.
Right.
Compared to 2018, 2019, where you see a lot of people, not a lot of people, a lot of builders building houses. They're not anymore. They're not as fast as it was before.
Right.
And I was speaking one time. I went to a brand new community. I was speaking to one of the reps, and they told me, but since the moment they purchased the land, by the time they like build the houses, in a lot of cases, there's a huge gap of time, and that's almost 10 years
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the planning, permit, city, you name it. So they're not building houses enough for the demand that we have right now.
Correct.
So yeah, but it's catching up. That's a good thing, but it's not as many homes as it was before.
Right. We have seen an increase over the years, but just like you mentioned, it's not so much builder heavy where it was in many years past. We did see a slowdown with the pandemic, and obviously there was a lot of fear and hesitation out there. And there has been a slight increase over the past few years, but there's still, in comparison to the demand, the way that these builders are building is nowhere near catching up.
That is correct. Now, recession. That's one of the things a lot of people feel prices will go down.
Correct.
So we're going into recession. The same as the last one, 2008. Nope. The last recession we had, according to the U.S. economy, it was back in 2020. Okay. And this is the last, I would say, 6 recessions that we had. And only in 2 occasions, prices went down. One of them was 1991, where they only went down 2%. And that's a small decrease on the prices. And back in 2008. But of course, that back in 2008, that recession was made because of real estate, or to better say it, is more on the financial of real estate. A lot of people were not having the correct loans on the house. A lot of people were getting 100% or even more than 100% of the equity of the property as a credit card and just buying Homers, jet skis, you name it,
Yeah.
So that's when that happened, when we had that recession, it was because of the real estate or the housing market. And that's the reason the housing market is the one that got hurt the most.
Correct.
2020, it wasn't because of the housing market. It was because of the whole pandemic, and people were not able to go out, were not able to spend as the same as before. So that's the reason we had a recession. But prices didn't went down; it went the opposite.
Correct.
Okay.
People think that like recessions, especially with how we've been scarred from 2008, people think that a recession means a housing crash, and that's not the case. For the last 6 recessions here in the United States, particularly, home prices, just like you're saying, and this graph shows, have actually gone up. And that's because within real estate, it's often seen as a long-term investment, especially if, depending on inflation, that could also alter it as well.
That is true. Like something, if we have a recession, it's because people might start spending because of the high prices. Tariff. But inflation went down. So technically, if prices go up because of the whole taxes or tariff, technically they're just gonna go up probably the same as when we had the inflation situation in 2023, 2024.
Right.
So I don't foresee that if we have a recession, or probably we are in one right now, I don't see that prices will go down.
Yeah, and the big thing to emphasize here is that a recession doesn't necessarily mean crashing home prices. It's like real estate tends to be a lot more resilient, especially in what we're seeing now, especially when the supply is tight. So as long as the inventory remains low with the demand being high, do not expect that to be the case.
That is true. Equity. We just talked about it right now.
Fun. Yeah, this one's fun. This is also a big factor in why honing into our point.
Okay, so why prices are not gonna go down due to equity? Back in 2008, a lot of people, or 2007, let's say 2007, a lot of people didn't have the same equity as now. A lot of people, like I mentioned before, they were using the houses as credit cards. A lot of banks back then, they will allow you to, if your home went up 100,000, you can get 100,000 of equity out and have 0 equity on the house at that moment. Nowadays, according to this graph and information, you know, 39% of homeowners in the United States, they have the home paid paid off.
Right.
They don't have, I'm sorry, they don't have any type of loans on the houses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what it means by that is like if prices go down 5%, 10%, it doesn't matter to them. You know, they have the home paid off completely. 31% have less than 50% equity, and 29% has more than 50% equity. So
Right.
technically, between paid off and more than 50% equity, that is approximately like 70% of homeowners in the United States. They have more than 50% equity on the house.
Right. Exactly. And that's the big difference between now and what we went through in 2008, right? In today's market, people have paid off their homes. In today's market, people do have equity. They're not necessarily drowning in debt. They have equity. They have something to fall back on. So that's the big difference. Fewer foreclosures and less desperation pretty much means that people will fight for their property, or for whatever reason, if it doesn't work out, they have a ton of equity that they can use to their advantage towards selling the property and ultimately cashing in on it. So that's like, let's say if I were to ring the bell on one big topic, it's this one, because that's what differentiates where we're sitting now from what happened back in 2008.
Yeah, like even though if prices drop, people were not gonna let go of their houses
Mm-hmm.
because they have equity. Back then, 2008, when prices went down, they're like, forget it. Bank, you can keep it. Anyways, I don't have any equity on the house.
They had no skin in the game.
Exactly. And we don't see a lot of foreclosures. We don't see a lot of short sales nowadays. Well, our team, in the last 10 years, we barely gonna close our first short sale
Okay.
transaction,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but they're not as common as it was back in 2007, 2008, because people have equity now. More than ever, they have equity on their home. Yes, you're gonna see some people selling their house because they have a lot of credit card debt, and they're not able to maintain. So they're gonna sell it, pay off the debt. Those are the people they're gonna sell the houses,
Mm-hmm.
not because of short sale or people foreclosing on their home.
Yeah.
So rates, talk to us, Giovanni.
Well, like we were talking about earlier, right? It's like a lot of people right now, especially speaking for the nation, they're sitting on a mortgage rate well under 6%. And this graph kind of elaborates on that. If you see like a big chunk of it, right here, over 33% nationwide of people are sitting on an interest of 3% or lower. That is just unheard of, unheard of. But because of what happened within the pandemic, a lot of people that were homeowners were able to take advantage of that. So it's like that's not necessarily going to affect things as much, because now it's like people aren't going to let go of that rate. People aren't going to let go of the equity that they have, and that's where it's like it could help change the things towards what was in the past.
And that's going back. That's the reason why there's a low inventory.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they don't want to let go of the below 4% rate at
Right.
this moment. So they prefer to, like a lot of families, they buy a house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and then eventually the family grow. And then you know what? Let's buy something bigger, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. You don't see that a lot. They prefer
Wow.
to acomodarse en la casita,
Mm-hmm.
so that way they don't lose that low rate. So that's one of the biggest reasons we see a low inventory at this moment, and it's because of the low rates that a lot of people have on their house.
Correct. I have a good friend of mine that purchased right in the heart of the pandemic, and they purchased with the rate right under 3%. And they've told me and stressed it over many times as, you know what, Gio, like I am never gonna sell this home because of the rate that I got. Eventually I'll just hand it off to my kids and then they'll be able to do with it. But a lot of people are stressing the same sentiment. It's like they're sitting on pretty much, for what we see, something that's never gonna happen again, and they don't want to let go of that.
But why? Okay, why it's not gonna happen again? Why do you think people are not gonna see 3%? At least, right? At least in the next few years.
Man, it's going to take something catastrophic to the level of what we experienced with COVID, where the world, quote unquote, shut down for us to even consider that an idea or a possibility again. Like where we're sitting at now, between 5, 6, 7%, that is still low, talking about the grand scheme of things, where like back in the early 2000s or the 90s, we're talking 15, 18, 20%. That was the norm. Right now it's like we've more shifted towards where this is going to continue to be a norm as we move forward. But man, it's going to take something catastrophic for us to even see that ever again. It may be, but it's going to take some time, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, at least we're not gonna see it in the next 3 years.
Right. So versus waiting for, okay, I'm gonna purchase when the rates are 3, 4% again, you might as well cashing now and then allow yourself to ride the wave.
That is true. Now, what? Okay, so prices are not going down. That's our opinion. We have the numbers, we have the reasons why, but what can you expect? That's the main question. Rates. In my opinion, the rates will be on the 6%, at least for 2025.
Mm-hmm.
If you see low rates, hopefully by the end of the year or beginning of next year, it's going to be on the 5%, high 5%. That's what we're going to call the new low rates. Don't expect to go and wait for the 3%, because I'll tell you this, you're going to be waiting, and you're going to be waiting for so many years. Okay, and that's the truth. Okay, so if you're looking to buy, expect that. Now, if you're looking on home equity or houses to go down, I don't think it's going to go down. But don't expect to buy a house for $700,000 and then gain $100,000 equity just in 1 year.
Yeah.
You're only going to see probably a 3% to 4% max on equity gain. Okay, if you're a homeowner and you say, I'm going to wait for my home to go up on price, don't expect to, in 1 year, you're going to gain a lot of equity. Again, the prediction is 3 to 4%.
Right.
Okay, and that's good. I'm not mad because of that.
It's still healthy.
Huh?
That's still healthy.
It is, but it's good news because it's healthy. It's an increase that is healthy. People can able to catch up to that. Now something good news, and also something for the seller to expect, is that, like on this graph that we have right now, 44% of homeowners, they're helping the buyers with closing costs, like meaning if you have repairs, closing costs, etc. So that's good news.
It's great news, especially if you're a buyer.
Yeah, we just closed a transaction recently. We given keys last week. I know this was 2 days ago.
Yeah,
with Jessica, and we helped the client get $23,000 on repairs, and usually that's not a normal.
That didn't exist a couple years ago.
Yeah, you might see 5 to 10,000. You never see like 23,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And again, it's that type of market. Okay. Now, if you're a homeowner, be open minded that you also might, depending on the negotiation, you also might need to help, the buyers if the house has some damages.
Correct.
Okay. It's not, you still see it sold as is. Trust me, when you do the home inspection, it's a high chance you're still going to help them. Okay. Also, homeowners, if your home market value is $700,000 based on the city, and you say, hey, I'm going to try to sell it for $760,000, $780,000, trust me, you're going to list it for that price, but eventually you're going to be lowering the price. Homeowners are not selling. Home buyers, they're not overpaying for a house.
Correct.
Okay, so make sure if you're gonna list the house, speak to a professional, us, of course, and list it at the correct price for the specific community.
Right.
Overprice it, because you're gonna lose the first few days when it's critical for a home to be priced at the correct value.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because let's say how you list and how you price your home ultimately dictates how it sells. And, let's say there's no regulations in how a homeowner working with agents list a home and what price they put it at. They either put it at market value, which is what it's worth, above market value, where it's like we like to say that they're living in fantasy land, reaching for a number that might be worth more than what their home is worth. Or they listed a little below, where it's more of a strategy to get more buyers in the door. So when things like that happen and they overlist and then price reduce the home, it doesn't necessarily mean that home prices are lowering. It just means that the seller is adjusting with where the market is actually at versus with what they dream of having.
Exactly. So yeah, so if you're considering buying a house, and there's a lot of programs, and we're gonna have one of our guests next Thursday, where we have a great program where you only give a 3% down payment, 6% rate, that's a fixed rate for 30 years, no mortgage insurance.
Absolutely. And no, it's just I'm seeing a comment from Luis. He said he's actually greeting you. It's Edwin from a past journey, so he didn't know that we worked together.
Oh, okay.
Just way back. So saludos, Luis. Good to see you.
Saludos. So yeah, so I lost my thought, by the way.
my apologies. We're talking about the 6% that's available in regards to an interest rate as little as 3% down. Also, if you don't have legal status within the country and you have an ITIN number, you can also apply with this bank and then be able to have a lower down payment versus, like, let's say the 20% anywhere else. So there's a lot of options on the table that, if you decide to get yourself educated, we can help elaborate on what's on the table that you can ultimately take advantage of.
Yeah, that is true. Also, if you need down payment assistance, we have a few letters that can help them with down payment assistance. So they don't have to come with 20, 30,000 of down payment. We have a program for you that can help you with that. It's so easy. Just reach out to us. We can help you with that. Set up the first step. And we're going to be talking a lot of that next Saturday. I believe it's the 24th, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yes, our home buyer seminar where we're going to be talking everything A through Z, whether you're a first-time buyer, whether you're looking to buy your second property, an investment. We're going to be going over what you need to know, especially in today's market, what's pertinent on how to successfully set yourself up to purchase a home, whether it's in this year or you want to plan for sometime in next year. Start making those steps now and then join us for our home buyer seminar. You can reach out to our link in bio. It's on an Eventbrite. Register because seats are filling up fast, and we'd love to see you guys here.
What is the cost?
Free $99. We're over here just providing value because we know that education matters. We know that the better informed you are on your options, the better empowered you feel to make a move, and that's what we're here to do. So come join us. We'll have cafecito, we'll have refreshments, we'll have fun, and more than anything, Edwin and I, we're going to be bringing the good vibes and informing you all on what you guys need to know to purchase a home.
Yeah, of course. So hopefully a lot of people were able to get a lot of good notes, good information. Now hopefully they're able to be more informed of what is happening. Si el compadre te está diciendo, don't buy, prices are going down, you can wait. But trust me, you're not going to see the prices going down.
Right. Okay. Reach out to us. We're here happy to help.
Thank you so much.
You guys have a good one.
Have a good night.